Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the Post Position Podcast, brought to you by the Paid in Lines. I'm Jack Connell. As always, you can find me on Twitter at JackConnellTPL. Harry could not be joining us today, but we do have a great guest for you today, Scott Nichols, agent with Rize Management. Scott, how you doing today?
Good. Great talking to you. I look forward to it.
All right, awesome. So, Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who do you represent, players, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so I'm a lawyer and agent based in LA, and I've been doing it for about 13 years. And one of the guys that you guys know pretty well that I represent is James Ennis from the Philadelphia 76ers. I also represent one of your former players in Hollis Thompson. I have about 25 guys. I worked with Gravis Vasquez before he retired. Darius Morris, who played with the Lakers. I got Devon Purcell, who was on a two-way last year with the Nuggets and is with OKC now. And then I got a slew of players overseas. Actually, one guy, Casper Ware, too, also played with you guys, the Sixers. DJ Strawberry, who played in the league for a while, now has been overseas. D-Boss, Zach Wright. I have about 20, I have a handful of guys, a bunch more. But those are some of them.
We know some of those guys very well. Casper Ware, Hollis Thompson, both some process legends. James has been playing great for the Sixers this year. Some might call him the sixth man of the team right now. That's what I would call him. But so I mean, a lot of people are definitely fascinated and enamored with the life of a sports agent. It's very glitz and glamour shows and TV shows. Tell us yourself, what is the life like for an NBA agent?
I mean, I would say some of the stuff you see on TV is true. Like, I would say probably Baller's a very good depiction of what it's kind of like. But, obviously they show more of the financial manager and a little bit of the agent. But it's good. There's some glitz and glamour, but I would say it's not as glitz and glamoury as you would think. Every day you wake up, you're worried about getting fired because these clients can fire you at the drop of a dime. Even though you still would get paid on their contracts, they can fire you anytime. So it's not always nice waking up in the morning, getting a fax or an email and wondering if you're getting fired. So that part's not good. The other part is you're always someone always told me two things. I used to work with Lee Steinberg, so he always told me you're not a real agent until, one, you get fired. Because every agent gets fired no matter what you do, whether it's good or bad. Because if a client has a bad game, it's your fault for not putting in the right situation. If the client didn't get enough money, it's the agent's fault. And I would say you're always recruiting, whether you're recruiting from college or you're still recruiting the clients that you got, because the better they are, the better games they play, there's always some kind of stake behind you trying to get them and tell them, or someone in their ear telling them that your agent's not doing a good enough job, I can do better, or someone I know can do better.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does seem like it's a very rough job. I mean, it definitely seems like it's a great job. I mean, something you always got on your toes making sure. But, I mean, you obviously have shown you've been in the game for a while. You know what you're doing. You've done a great job of keeping your talent, it seems, so far. So
I appreciate it. I mean, I would say the one thing I said is, like, it is true, though, like, every guy, whether young or old, they come up to me, they think it's a cool job, and they all want to, if they like sports, they all kind of want to do it. But I wanted to tell you that it's not all glitz and glamour, but it's a great job. I wake up every day enjoying myself. I go to games, college or pro, and I'm working. That's considered my job. So.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that a lot of these guys like is obviously you see these guys, these Adrian Wojnarowskis, these Shams Charania. These are guys that seem to break news almost immediately, and they are always seem to be communicating with agents like yourself and others throughout the NBA. Have you ever personally worked with these guys? Like, have you ever had?
Yeah. I mean, I would say Shams Charania is to be honest with you, he's a very good friend of mine. I actually knew him before he even became big and worked, I knew when he was like real GM and when he was starting out. I would say I communicate with several reporters, but like someone that I trust and I communicate more often than not a lot with would be Shams. And just because, I think from your perspective, you want to help from them because they got the inside scoop on other, like during free agency, who's going to sign where and kind of help you out, kind of what's going on. And I think in return, you help them out by giving them scoops or giving them info or tidbits that you hear. But there's also a lot of reporters I don't trust, but Shams I definitely trust a lot and have a good relationship with.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely has seemed to have risen as one of the faces of the NBA media world, if not the face. Kind of maybe has a step over Wojnarowski currently, and he's such a young guy in the game. It's incredible to see, but I mean,
I think a big thing with him though is because he's built relationships with agents. He's built relationships with teams, but also with agents, and I think it's important because a lot of people always think, oh, agents are the bad guys, this, that. They kind of look at them as like outside in the world, but kind of like outside, like the ones that people don't want to deal with. But he's built really good relations with agents, which I think is important.
Yeah, I mean that's key because I mean they kind of dictate the players' movement. I wouldn't say dictate, but I mean they have a big hand in helping the players choose where they want to go, what they get, all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. How much do you work? Do you ever talk to some of these other agencies? I mean, any of them? I mean, obviously everybody knows the Rich Pauls of the world, but I mean, other agents I mean, there's so many, and they're all equally important. Do you work with them at all, or do you kind of just stay to yourselves as agents?
I mean, I would say for most people stay to themselves. I think there are several, there's a handful of agents I talk to, bounce ideas off, or talk about what's going on in the world, whether it's in the NBA or overseas. But it's a weird thing when you go to these agent meetings, or you go to like Portsmouth, which is the top 64 seniors every year. A lot of agents don't talk to each other because they are, it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world, and it's very competitive. So like agents kind of keep to themselves for the most part. There's a handful that, I can name 5 or 6 that I talk to, not even on a regular basis, but I will talk to them. The rest, I don't want to talk to.
I mean, it definitely is a competitive world. I mean, everybody, like you said, is kind of just trying to make a name for themselves and secure their clients and really don't want to risk anything and just want to keep their cards close to themselves, which makes sense. So, I mean, I don't really think it's anything personal. I mean, obviously, they're all just trying to strive for success as their own individuals. But I mean, like we were kind of talking about there, I mean, obviously the main part of being an agent is recruiting players to your agency, your representation. How do you go about, or how did you go about initially bringing players to Rize Management and to yourself?
Well, being a boutique firm, I had to find a niche. So I tend to my niche is to go after guys that are like, under the radar as much as they can be, or borderline first rounders, or even borderline second round guys. Guys maybe that out of college, their first year they have to go overseas and then come back, kind of like James Ennis, who was drafted and stashed. I know my lane, and I try to stay in it. And then once I've gotten some clients, then I try to recruit guys that are either A, their friends, B, went to their colleges, or I have relationships. Like I have relationships with several, more than a dozen college coaches that I have relationships with, to try to recruit those guys. You can't recruit everyone because there's too many players, and you got to know where your niche is at, because if you're just basically throwing rocks, you could typically try to go after everybody, but it's a waste of your time or money or resources.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it's kind of big that you go after what you know best, your niche, just work on that. I mean, obviously, not everybody can represent the Kawhi Leonard, the LeBron James of the world. I mean,
Correct.
Yes, I mean, and like
and even Kawhi Leonard was kind of under the radar. No one thought he was as good as he was. So, like, he went with like a no-name agent when he was coming out. I didn't go after him, but like, he would be a guy that I would consider going after, like that kind of guy. But like, I know I'm not going to get LeBrons and the James Wisemans of the world.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously, I mean, your niche is definitely, you found some success in your guys. I mean, James is thriving in the NBA right now, probably one of the best bench players in the league.
I mean, he's the only. I mean, as a side note, like for Ennis, he's the only second-round pick in his draft class, I think, that's still in the NBA. I think maybe Alan Crabb is still in the league, but he was like 31, so you kind of consider that a late, first rounder. But James is 50. He's the only one left from that draft class in the second round.
Which is a great testament to how great he's been and your scouting analysis. But I mean, the one thing I wanted to touch upon that I'll bring to light to everybody is Scott is the first ever certified NCAA agent. So they're starting to allow NCAA athletes to be represented by agents, and you got this certification. So what does this allow you to do as an agent? Like, what can you do? What can't you do with the certification?
So, there's been a lot of pushback on the certification from a lot of agents. And at first, I was kind of against it because, they were telling you if you've been in the NBA, even if you've been an NBA agent for 10 plus years, you got NBA. To go through the certification process at NCAA. There's still, I would say, 90% of the agent world is fighting against it. But what it allows you to do, one, it kind of gives you a stamp of approval. So when I walk on the campuses, the dean or the head of athletics can't, because a lot of times with agents, they're like very wary. They don't like you at games. They look at you sideways. You have a stamp of approval. So the NCAA is now, hopefully we'll see how it works out, but what they say is they have the agents back, and they'll be able to give you a stamp of approval. So when you walk on campus, it kind of gives you okay, this guy's legit. He's not some kind of like runner or whatever. So that's one. Two, it allows you to represent the bigger picture. Allows you to represent underclassmen that are testing the waters. So guys that are freshmen, sophomore, juniors, now they're allowed to test the waters and hire an agent. A guy like me can be the representation, and then the kid, if they want to go back to school, can go without losing their eligibility. And not a certified agent. You could still recruit guys, but the issue is if they sign with you, then the kid can't go back to school.
Oh, okay. So that was my thing. I was like, if they say they were to go to the draft and they were to be represented by you, but they were unsuccessful in being drafted, they aren't able to go back in the league after signing with you.
Okay, so that rule's not. So what you're able to do now is you're able to test the waters and go all the way through the draft combine, and then after the draft combine, you could pull your name out and go back to school and be represented by an agent. Before the NCAA got involved, they technically couldn't be represented by an agent if they wanted to go back to school. Now they can be represented by an agent, go through the combine, which is late May, and then pull their name out and then sever ties with an agent like myself without, risking his eligibility.
Okay. I mean, that's definitely, I think that's beneficial for both sides. I mean, these players are now able to kind of more clearly see where they would lie, and if that degree or they need another year in college is more special or better for them than going to the league, I mean, they can go back and not really have any harm done. I mean, it also allows you to do more talent, more scouting, get prospects. I mean, I think it's a beneficial thing for both sides. I think it's a great thing that's done for the NCAA.
Yeah, for sure. And for the NCAA, I think the positive for them is, one, it's a money maker. They make some money off it. And then two, they get to know the agents a little bit more so they can have tabs on who's coming and going in their campus.
All right. Now, how well prepared were you for this to like come into like be something you can do? I mean, was this something you were told about way ahead of time, or is this something that was kind of just thrown on agents' laps that you kind of just went through and completed and now have?
I think it's a lot later. So it was thrown on agents' laps, and we were kind of caught off guard by it. And then they kind of like just said, okay, there's this date to get your application and background check, and then there's this date to take a test. It was all kind of last minute. I think the NCAA is getting it together, but this is their first time going through this. They were kind of going by the hip, kind of putting it together. And now I think they're better prepared. But I didn't know. So they sent out the paper. There was a lot of people that didn't do it more than they did it. So I just wanted to get it over with. And you had to fill out an application, you had to do a background check, and then you had to take a 50-question multiple choice test. But the hassle was that being from LA, I had to fly to Indianapolis. That was the only thing I didn't like. You had to fly to Indianapolis, pay your way there, and then pay for the test, and then you have to pay once you pass, you have to pay another fee. So.
Now, do they jack those prices up on you guys because you're agents, or are they reasonable with those?
I mean, it depends on what you do. You have to pay for your way, and you have to pay I think the grand total all in is like $1,500. So it depends on who you are, what you think that is, but you have to pay that. Plus, you have to pay the agent fee to be an NBA certified agent. So you have to pay. There's a lot of fees going on.
Now, overall, how much does this change the agency game for guys like yourself? I mean, is this just something minor, or is this like game changing? Would you say?
We'll have to see. I actually hope it's game changing, but I honestly think it's probably minor because I think the bigger agencies, meaning in size, they're not getting this certification right now. They're kind of fighting it, which I don't get, and I don't get in the sense that they have so many employees working for them. They could send someone lower level to get the certification, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they probably go after lottery picks or guys they know are not testing the water, so it doesn't really affect them. Where I think it may help a boutique agency or smaller is that, it gives you that stamp of approval when you're going for guys that are underclassmen that are not lottery picks that are unsure.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a big game changer. I think it's minor, but it's a wait and see approach. We'll see what happens. It depends on the NCAA because the NCAA, at first their whole thing was you have to have a bachelor's degree to be NCAA certified, and then Rich Paul came out, and then they changed the rule. So we'll see if the NCAA does it.
I mean, that was one of the big things. Was obviously a lot of people were calling it the Rich Paul rule, trying to keep guys like that out of the game. I mean, it seems like they amended that. So I mean, hopefully, I think this is something, like I mentioned before, is beneficial for both sides. So I think it's something they should reach into more. I mean, some of these lower agencies set up with these representations should definitely be able to go into it, apply. I mean, I don't see why it would hurt, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I don't see why. It doesn't hurt anybody, really.
Yeah. Now, I mean, what are some of the like major common misconceptions about being an NBA agent that like aren't really seen or are kind of thought of the opposite way of being an NBA agent?
I mean, I think one of the things we touched on earlier, that's all glitz and glamour. It's not. And I think one of the misconceptions is that you just get a guy's contract and that's your job. No, I mean, you negotiate the contracts is the biggest thing, but you're their agent. Sometimes if you're their legal advisor or lawyer, you're their not their financial advisor, but you give financial advice. You get their marketing deals. You're their big brother to some of them. You're their best friend. Quote unquote, sometimes you're even their pimp. Sometimes you help them with girls. You got to get them involved with like restaurants and nightlife. So you're a whole bunch of stuff. You have to wear a bunch of different hats.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like it's a very trivial job, like very challenging. Now, obviously, what you kind of touched on the contract.
And the other agents get paid a ton of money. Okay, look, if you have LeBron or if you have Kobe, sure, but you really don't get paid a lot because your percentages are between 2 and 4%, and sometimes players negotiate even lower. You really don't make a ton off guys unless you get a big time client.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. I thought it was honestly higher than that. I didn't think it was really that low. Now, when we kind of talked about negotiations, what is it? I mean, are they mostly like, what is a contract negotiation like at an NBA level between an agent and a GM? If you're able to walk me through that sort of, I mean, is it mostly like face to face, like discussing numbers, or is it like a number kind of already set and you're just working around it? Like, how does it usually work out?
It's playing a per line guy up and down, and you're trying to fight for every little penny. If you got a stud or a star, you can get the max deal and call it a day, and it's quick and easy, right? You just got to figure out what team wants to give you the max. There's going to be some can give you the max. If you've got a mid-level guy or whatever, the negotiation's a little bit harder. You have to be creative with bonuses and those kind of things. So, I mean, that's the long and the short. But, I mean, you got the CBA. It gives you guidelines on exemptions and salary cap rules. So I would say negotiations are tough, but that's not rocket science.
Gotcha. I mean, I think that is everything we have for you today, Scott. I mean, we want to thank you again for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on. Obviously, I mean, you guys can check out his guys, Hollis Thompson's with the Sacramento Kings currently, James Ennis with the Philadelphia 76ers, a lot of guys overseas for Scott. They're all over the place. They're all great players, all very talented. Anything else you got to say, Scott?
Your time and hustle, and you'll be the next big-time NBA reporter. I know you will.
I appreciate you, Scott. All right, everybody, make sure
we'll talk soon.
All right, make sure to leave 5 stars on the pod. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PostPositionPod. See you guys.